Hey, this is Scott at Fire Breathing Christian, and I know that in the wake of the announcement made last month that Kathleen Kennedy had her contract renewed to remain president and overlord of Lucasfilm through to 2021, or through, I don't know how far into it, maybe through the whole year. There's been a lot of depression and anxiety and frustration and anger floating around out there in Star Wars fandom. And I'm definitely a part of Star Wars fandom. I love Star Wars. So I wanted to take a moment here to chime in and just point out some of the very large silver linings to even this ugly scenario. And I wanted to just reference this article here at theforce.net, where from the Hollywood Reporter, which is where they quote, Kathleen Kennedy has reignited her lightsaber. And yeah, it's red. Obviously, we knew that already. The lead producer and architect of the Star Wars franchise has renewed her contract to remain president of Lucasfilm for another 3 years, through 2021. Now, architect of the Star Wars franchise, interesting way of deceiving. This is not true at all, of course. She's the architect of Disney's destruction of the franchise, Disney's perversion, social justice warrior drenched obliteration of a once great franchise. She's taken a franchise that was the golden IP, the number one film franchise you could have, and she's turned it, under her watch, it's become a money loser and on a large scale. Solo, the most recent installment in the Star Wars franchise, under her watch, the part that she has been an architect of, she's taken it from multi-billion-dollar moneymaker to losing roughly $100 million with the release of Solo. And for me personally and my family, and I know many others are in the same camp, what she's done for me is she's taken a fan. I was a great fan of the franchise. I still love Star Wars, which I now clearly identify as the 6 films made by George Lucas, that she's helped me draw that hard line. Well, I was pulling for. I mean, I was excited and enthusiastic when The Farce Awakens was released. I went and saw it twice, and I so desperately wanted to like it that, well, that's a story for another time. But I really was rooting for it, and I was then rooting for the other films that have come out since. But what has happened as these things have unfolded is I've gone from the kind of fan, and I know I'm one of many, many thousands, probably tens of thousands, maybe more, who not long ago, it was a given that we would go to the theater multiple times to see a new Star Wars release. It was a given that I would buy the DVD or Blu-ray, whatever format was at the time, that I'd buy the 4K disc when it came out, all these things. I would buy all those things and watch them again and again and again and enjoy them. Now I've gone with The Farce Awakens. I saw it twice in the theater. Then I rented it. Then I bought it on Blu-ray. I watched it once with my wife on Blu-ray. That is all. And then with Rogue One, watched it once at the theater. That is all. And then with The Least Jedi, I saw it in the theater one time, was mortified, horrified, couldn't watch it again. My wife didn't even want to see it in the theater, and she was also a big Star Wars fan. Then she, in order to just try to get her up to speed and so that we could at least know what was going on with Star Wars under Kathleen Kennedy or Disney's watch, we got it when it came on Netflix. We made it 48 minutes in and we just stopped. No appetite, just revulsion. So my wife has only seen 48 minutes of The Least Jedi. I've seen it once in the theater and then once partially then on Netflix. We did not buy it, which is a big deal for a collector like me. Even my collect the whole set thing has not pushed me to the point where I can bear to buy these things anymore. And then from there with Solo, neither of us wanted to go see it in the theater, and we definitely aren't going to buy it, but we did. We rented it on iTunes for one night. It was like, I think $5, $4 or $5. We watched it, mostly hated it. It had a couple good moments, but overall it's terrible. And so now we're to the point where with episode 9 about to come out, it's unlikely that either of us will go see it in the theater. I might to write about it. But we're at a point now where this is so clearly not Star Wars. Star Wars now for us and our family, and it's 6 movies that George Lucas made. I'm very much open and hopeful that one day down the road, after all this craziness passes, that maybe Star Wars will be revived by competent, capable people who are clear, of which Kathleen Kennedy clearly is not. But for right now, we're just enduring it and moving on. We watch Star Wars movies regularly in our home. It's just one of the 6 movies. Our kids are being raised to love those things. They play with the toys. We have a pop-up book. We have other books, comic books, all kinds of toys. They're all based and rooted in the Lucas Productions. Not Lucasfilm anymore, George Lucas, back when there was actually Star Wars being made. And so One of the silver linings, one of the things I want to remind people of, and this is obvious, I'm not breaking any news here, but really, this is going to pass. Her approach to Star Wars is doing so much damage so quickly that it can't go on forever, and it can't even go on very much longer, really. Though it could be years, it could be many years. Though in the grand scheme of things, it comes and it goes. The track record already, the trajectory already, is so bad for her. It's so horrifying, so awful. She is now got to be legendary as a failure when you just measure the results. What she's done to a franchise, drug a multi-billion-dollar per film release sort of moneymaker and made it a money loser. She's managed to do that. It's incredible. And however much Disney may try to prop up the scenario and pretend and try to push things along and they don't want to admit defeat, correct errors in any meaningful way right now, eventually they'll have to do that. Because at some point, whether it's 5 years from now, 10 or 20, at some point the franchise will be so wrecked that they will be very likely to either sell it off or completely reboot after acknowledging error and correcting leadership of Lucasfilm. At some point, that's going to happen. Now, in the meantime, and interestingly, I think it was a comment or an interview that the guy who plays Poe Dameron, I don't remember his name, I apologize, but he had made the good point in pushing back actually against some of the Star Wars fan criticism of The Least Jedi. He had said, well, if you don't like it, basically go write your own sci-fi, go make your own thing. And that is an awesome thought. That's a great idea. That's one of the things that this situation with Kathleen is helping us to be forced to consider. I myself have started writing sci-fi. Never thought I would do that. I look forward to sharing more on that whole project as time unfolds here. I'll do some videos on that. But it is a good reminder and a good nudge that, hey, you know what? We don't need Star Wars. We're not dependent on it as much as I've loved it. Many others have. We don't have to have it. And as hard as this may be to believe, as I say it here or as you hear it, but we can do better. Not only can we do better than what Kathleen Kennedy is cranking out now, that's easy to do. We can do better than George Lucas did. Better things are coming. And I am now convinced that those things will be more likely to come sooner rather than later, precisely because of what Kathleen Kennedy is being allowed to do to Star Wars by Disney. That's a pretty big silver lining. Even though the payoff may be way down the road, we need to appreciate that opportunity. I mean, there's no signs they're going to fix it. Look, if you're counting on Disney fixing this franchise, I think you can stop now. I mean, check in later, of course. I pay attention to what they're doing with these movies and what's been announced. I watch the news, but I don't do so with real hope that they're going to get a grip on things in a good way anytime soon. I'd love to see that happen, as I know many Star Wars fans would, but it's not likely, and that's okay, ultimately. Now it's on us to create the sci-fi, create the drama, the heroes, the characters, the stories that we want to see. We have it on us now, and the nightmare that is the Kathleen Kennedy regime at Lucasfilm makes that very plain. So that's a silver lining aspect to go along with the fact that ultimately her reign cannot last forever. If you appreciated this video and you want to support what we're doing, please like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the little bell icon so that you can be notified every time we post a new video, which we're hoping to do regularly on a daily basis from here on out on this subject and related subjects. Thank you very much for your support. Without it, we can't continue to do this.